up? It's Grace, and tonight I'm going to be doing my reading wrap-up, my February reading wrap-up. I've read 5 books and I enjoyed all of them, and is it 5 books? Yes, I can count. So let's just go ahead and get into it. You are going to be seeing a theme of what I read this month. I read 1 fantasy and 4 historical fiction novels that were set during World War II. And I watched a crap ton of documentaries, and I just finished watching Schindler's List for the first time. So good. If you haven't watched that, please go do so. It's very important and just so well done. So the first book I actually listened to on audiobook, and it is the first book that I've ever listened to that I really enjoyed, and that is Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wein. And this is a historical fiction novel set during World War II, and it's set in 1943, and we follow 2 girls. One is the pilot and one is the passenger, and their British spy plane crashes in Nazi-occupied France, and one of the girls is taken by the Gestapo, and she's told to give up her mission or she's gonna face execution. And basically throughout this novel, you're told that like only one of the, on the synopsis as well, you're told that only one of the girls has a chance of survival. And so it's heart pounding, and it's a book that makes you really anxious to know, but it's also a very subtle book as well. While I was listening to it, it was just the 2 women that narrated it. I should know their names, I don't, but they were so good, and I just really brought out the emotion. And I listened to this in my car, which I don't recommend because it's actually really dangerous, because I cried. I sobbed at some times, and I couldn't see it, and I was out of place driving where I couldn't pull over, and it was dangerous. So I would recommend you don't do that, but it was phenomenal. There were a couple times in this where I was a little bit confused because we are jumping timelines a bit, and so I would have to rewind and in order to understand what part of the book we were in, but other than that, it was so good, and I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Next book I read was Uprooted by Naomi Novik, and this is a high fantasy adult standalone, I believe. And we follow this girl named Agniskia. This is one of those cases where when I was reading I just skipped over her name because it was just too long for me. I think it's a Swedish name. But anyway, she lives in this small, quaint village, and the village is surrounded by this evil, malevolent wood, and in order to tame the wood, the village had made a deal a long time ago with the wizard known as the Dragon, and he tames the wood, but it comes at a price, and he takes one of the women from the village every 10 years. And basically, the main character, she grew up thinking that her best friend was going to be taken, but shocker, she was the one that was taken, and she's just really uprooted and confused. I will start off by saying that I had high expectations for this book, and I did enjoy it, but I was a little bit disappointed with it. I thought it started off so good. I flew through the first 100 pages, but then it kind of just was like and it just was very it was cool, but it just wasn't enough. It didn't pack that punch that I wanted it to. But that being said, it was really unique. I really enjoyed the main character, not at first really, but towards the end I was like, yes! And I wanted to love the wizard because he seemed like one of those characters that I would love to hate, but he just kind of fell flat for me. But there was a lot of things that I appreciated in this. And also in this book, everything the magic system, just the places in this book and the history of their world is kind of just really thrown at you and told to you rather than fleshed out and shown to you. Usually I have a bigger problem with that, but in this book I think that it was fine. I didn't need a lot of explanation, and I thought that was really cool that she could do that, and I not care that much about that, if that makes any sense. But I ended up giving this 3.5 out of 5 stars, so I did really enjoy it. It just wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Next book I read was Between Shades of Grey by Ruta Sepetys, which is a historical fiction novel set during World War II. It's set in 1941, but we're focusing more on the Soviet side of things, and we follow a young 15-year-old girl named Lena, and she's planning on going to art school. but unfortunately her mother and her brother are taken by the Soviet secret police and sent to a work camp in Siberia, and they're separated from their father, and essentially it's just their story of survival and perseverance. All I'm going to say about the book, but I don't really know how to tell you how much I love this book, but I loved it with my whole heart, even though it was really hard to read. And it's just a book that, like all really historical fiction novels set during World War II or nonfiction books set during that time, they're really hard to read because it's very, how do you even comprehend that this was a time in our history and how people can do this to one another? But the beauty of this book was that it shows the best of humanity and it shows the worst of humanity. It's important to read, and it's important to know your history and just to understand that people were in these camps for over 15 years, far after the war ended. It's just crazy, and people need to know this stuff just to make sure that it never happens again, or it's just insane. But it was very beautiful, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Next book I read was by the same author, and that is Salt to the Sea, and I was sent this in exchange for an honest review by Penguin Teen, and I have a whole separate review on that. If you want to check it out, I will link it down below. But just know that this was another 5 out of 5 star book for me. So good. I'm possibly like this one a little bit more than Between Shades of Grey just because it was a little bit more personal, but it's just about a very significant time in history that a lot of people don't know about. But I will say, like I said in my review, that I think you should read Between Shades of Grey first because it's set in chronological order, and there's a character that is mentioned in this book that's in this book. So yes, but they both just really again show the best and the worst in humanity in beautiful and harsh ways, and 5 out of 5 stars. The last book I read was Tatiana and Alexander by Paulina Simons, which is the second book in the Bronze Horseman trilogy, and I read the Bronze Horseman back in December, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed this one as well, but before I talk about it, I will say that I completely understand how people could not like these books, given Tatiana and Alexander's relationship is a bit toxic and unhealthy, because Alexander is, I would say, he's very controlling and like intense. He's just a very intense dude, and Tatiana is a very impressionable young woman, and especially in this kind of vulnerable time during the war, and they're really annoying characters. They're annoying, and you just want to slap them a lot and knock some sense into both of them. But I still really enjoy how intense and emotional these books are, and this book was good as well. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, so I didn't like it as much as I liked The Bronze Horseman, but I still really enjoyed it, and I really liked how we got a lot more perspective on Alexander's past. That being said, I liked Tatiana less in this one because I really liked her in The Bronze Horseman because she was very innocent and positive as much as she could be during that time, and in this she was just like half the person she used to be. I totally know that like war would do this to a person, but it really wasn't because of that. If you read this, you know the reason, and I didn't really like that reasoning. But Alexander was annoying too, wanted to punch him at times, but still there's just something very addictive about these books, and I love the era that it's set in and just learning about the history. And I gave this, again, 4 out of 5 stars, and I suggest if you like historical romance, very heavy themed historical romance, pick this up. So those were all the books that I read in the month of February. I would say my favorite read of the month was Salt to the Sea by Rhoda Cepetis because it was just perfect. And if you had a favorite read of the month, comment down below and tell me, because I would love to know. And I hope you enjoyed this video. This book is it's bringing back feelings right now. But I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.